It is Week 10 in the National Football League. Welcome to the Doghouse, your inside look at the Cleveland Browns. I'm Andy McNamara alongside Browns insider Matt Florjancic from WKYC Sports in Cleveland, brought to you by the fine sports betting site sportsinteraction.com. On a bit of a mini bye, Browns played last Thursday, of course. Lost to the lost to the Cincinnati Bengals. They may lose later on to the Baltimore Ravens. Lost to the Bengals, and the coaching staff said, hey, you know what? We're going to take some time to reflect, to take a step back. So we're going to do the same here on the Doghouse. And our Twitter question, at AndyMC81, at Matt Florjancic. Email the Doghouse Show, DAWG, the Doghouse Show at gmail.com, and you can find us on iTunes, on iHeartRadio, our free app on the Google Play Store for Android devices, and Spreaker.com, and if there's anywhere else I can't think of it right now. But our question is, taking a step back, what are your midseason grades for the Browns? We're going to give you ours in a few minutes, but what are your midseason grades? What's your Browns report card as Cleveland sits at 2-7 through 9 games? Matt, how are you, buddy?
I'm well, Andy. How are you?
Doing good, and happy belated birthday, happy anniversary. It's a good week to kind of have the mini bye, I guess, so you can spend some good family time, right?
Oh, absolutely. I looked when the schedule came out, and I kind of looked up to my grandfather's up in heaven, and I said, hey, thanks for that one. That was a nice little assist on your part.
Yeah.
For getting me a birthday and an anniversary without a football, because I was worried that this would be the year that they get a Monday Night Football game in November, and they did, just not November 9th, so that's a good one.
It's not November 9th, so you're safe. Now, before we get to our midseason report cards, we talked about the Bengals loss, and really at this point it just seems like we're going around in circles. But before we came on the air, you checked your email, and that's why we have the best Browns insider, folks, Matt Florjancic from WKYC Sports. Because just before we came out the air, you said the Browns made a roster move. What was it?
The Browns signed a Darren Miller off the practice squad. He's a big offensive lineman. They want to create a little depth on the active roster, and to make the move to sign Miller, they decided to waive running back Robert Turbin, who they waited roughly 6 weeks to get healthy, and kept him on the active roster despite the fact that he wasn't going to play. And they cut Terrell Pryor to make the room on the active roster leading up to that season opener, and they've got less than what they expected out of Robert Turbin, so he was gone. And it doesn't look too good for a guy like Ray Farmer, who brings another Seattle Seahawk in here.
Like, I just am so beyond the teams, and the Browns aren't the only one, that just seem to feel like, okay, hey, if we get an ex-Patriot, if we get an ex-Seahawk, or whatever the flavor of the month is as far as successful teams go, they've been in that environment, they'll come to us and they'll turn us into winners. No, because there's a reason that good teams let players go. And we had Paul McQuiston as a lineman last year who did absolutely nothing. So, but for Turbin to come in, and Matt, missed those, as you said, the first 5-6 weeks of the season with the high ankle sprain. He fumbled the ball a couple times. I don't fully put that on Robert Turbin. Apparently the front office did, because I thought those fumbles came after Josh McCown was knocked loopy for the 30th time, it seems like. And those were not, if you go back and look at the tape, those were not clean handoffs. So part of the blame has to go to the quarterback. But the point is, you spend all this time, you talk this guy up. Oh, yeah, great. You let go your third-round draft pick. You trade him for what will not be any compensation because he didn't play enough games for the Tennessee Titans before they dropped Terrence West. You wasted draft picks to move up to get him. You bring Robert Turbin in, and now you let him go. Like, is it not worth holding on to an extra body with a guy that they clearly saw potential in? Like, they don't know if they're coming or going.
It's probably the reason I give this running back core an F, because the team has really done less than zip to help them out. And they bring in a Robert Turbin, and he's not what they expect him to be. I don't really know what they expect people to be when they get released from the Seahawks or the Patriots. Like you said, there's a reason why they get let go. And shoot, the Seahawks are doing a better job of scouting our players than we are theirs, because they took a guy that we cut, an undrafted free agent, Chris Matthews, a couple of years ago, and dude should have caught 2 touchdowns in the Super Bowl, and if Seattle would have won, he would have been in the running for MVP.
Wow.
But it's not a good situation. I don't understand what's going on. To me, it seems like as much of an admission of a mistake as you're going to get out of Ray Farmer at this point. And it's going to mean that Crowell is going to have to carry the load, because there's really nobody behind him except for Duke Johnson, and none of those guys have really impressed me running the football. They've only been good at moving the ball when they catch it
right
in short routes outside of the backfield, and then take that 5-yard pass 52 yards. Not a whole lot of hope for this running attack and righting the ship right now, because it's pretty slim pickings, and I would expect another move to be made at some point, especially soon, because 2 running backs on the active roster, not a good situation to have.
No, now, is Glenn Winston still on the roster? Is he injured on IR?
As far as we know, he's still on the roster. In what capacity that is, I'm not exactly sure. We haven't seen him we've seen him in the locker room once this year. So that's why I say in what capacity we don't know, because he's kind of the man that just disappears on you, and you don't know why. You don't know when it's going to happen. You just know that he's not there.
How does he hang around? Like why not keep Turbin, a guy who's actually played, and cut somebody like Winston? That doesn't make any sense to me.
I think we can take that phrase that you just said and apply it to no less than 50 personnel moves that the Browns have made this year.
Oh, Matt.
Andy, it's just one of those situations this year. You hate to say that it's lost because there's still 7 games to go, but this season was so horribly mismanaged on every level. It's not just the coaches. It's not just the GM. It's not just the ownership. It's not just the president. That quartet of pain has just done nothing but bring misery to this franchise, even more so than it already had.
Yeah, it's true. And quick side note here, Matt. I'm sure you caught it, and I've seen it. I was out of town calling a football game, and I watched last night the Paul Brown of Football Life, the NFL Network special. Wow. Like, if that doesn't fill you with pride, and then after it finishes, you remember how bad Cleveland is right now, and then drop you to the opposite end of the emotion scale, I don't know what will, because that was so well done, that Paul Brown documentary, and that Bill Belichick, who at every Super Bowl at some point praises Paul Brown, but every special that involves Cleveland, I like Belichick a bit more. That Cleveland '95 special that followed it, it was like, hey,
I love that special.
It's like, yeah, maybe Belichick wasn't that bad
special.
anyway. Yeah, and didn't they announce the move on your birthday back then?
Yep, my 11th birthday. Yep.
God, Matt.
Thank you
Matt.
to I won't speak ill of the dead, but thank you, Art Modell, for that awesome birthday present and
Ruining
the
it.
20 years of crappy football that has followed since their return.
Ruining a young Matt Florjancic's birthday. Like, how Cleveland is that on the birthday? My goodness. But I thought, that Paul Brown documentary, if you have not seen it, check it out. Well, Matt, what did you think of it? It was it was eye-opening to me.
It just, in some respects, he was such an innovator, and he really changed the way the game of football is played and the way that it's run from an organizational standpoint. And then in other parts, to see that clip of Art Modell standing there and firing Paul Brown, it's to say it's heart-wrenching is an understatement, because that really, there's a thing in Cleveland that's called the curse of Colavito, since they traded Rocky Colavito, who's a really power-hitting outfielder. The Indians haven't won squat, and I think that you can start to say now that this franchise has to be cursed from letting go of Paul Brown, because since that point, they won the '64 title, and that's it.
That was really all. But Art moved the team. Curses shouldn't carry over to a new franchise just because it's the same name. And anyway,
that's part of the curse.
That's part of the.
They move somewhere else and win 2 Super
Oh,
Bowls.
yeah, I guess so. But yeah, Bill Belichick giving full credit to how he operates based on the Paul Brown model. So I got a couple of tweets after that aired. Again, at AndyMC81, at Matt Fleur-Jancic, that I thought were quite good. From at Mario on Your Mind says, Browns need to go back to philosophy and work ethic of Paul Brown. Hashtag honor, hashtag respect, hashtag hard work. And I replied to him, and Matt, I said, and it has to be more than words on a wall, like in the Cleveland Berea facility. It says, play like a Brown and lists accountability and all that. Paul Brown didn't have to put anything on the wall. He made you accountable. And that's something this coaching staff, they can have all the fun slogans and marketing they want, and it's fun, but when you don't do it, after a while, it just looks ridiculous.
Yep, and it helps make you a laughingstock in your coaching fraternity. The likelihood that Mike Pettin gets another head coaching job anytime soon, should he be dismissed at the end of the year, not very good. No. The likelihood that Ray Farmer will ever be put in charge of another draft, not very good if he gets let go. So this whole play like a Brown, no. Yeah, play like a Brown in the 50s, yeah, awesome.
Sure.
But we need to play like, somebody else to compete, because we haven't competed. And to continuously say, well, we're going to do the same things we've done,
that's asinine.
I don't need to hear that. It's disgusting to hear that.
It's arrogant.
Ray Farmer should have been embarrassed by saying it, and if he wasn't, then he should no longer be a part of the franchise.
Matt, how many of it'd be interesting to go back and see how many ex-Browns coaches, head coaches, since expansion have actually gone on to get another head coaching job in the National Football League. Like, has there been anybody? I guess Romeo.
No.
I guess Romeo kind of on a fill-in, but.
Romeo's as close as you get, because Butch didn't. No. Butch never coached in the NFL again, I believe.
No, you're right.
And Romeo took over.
KC.
Pat Shermer, or Eric Mangini, rather, was the first before Shermer, and Mangini's now getting a shot as a defensive coordinator again. He had to take a position coaching job to get back in a position of coordinator. Shermer's OC out in Philly. Rob Chudzinski's the interim OC out in Indy, and then Pettin. So nobody. No. This has been I hate to say it, but it's been a dead spot for a career. Like, if you come take the Cleveland Browns head coaching job, you better make sure you get one hell of a guarantee, because it's going to be the last head coaching job you get.
But most of them, it's the first one, outside of Mangini.
Yeah, most of them, it's the first and the last.
Yeah, right? That's it, and that's the problem with the culture in Cleveland, because you can only attract and still pay a pretty penny for guys who are looking for their first shot, and cross your fingers and hope you come across the next genius. And we have not done that.
And the funny thing is, you can't even get your first choice of coordinators.
You're right.
You take your 8th choice. The last 2 times it's been their 5th and their 8th choices.
Wow.
Because the rest of the coaches have told them to shove it. When Joe Banner did interviews, he basically told Ken Wisenhunt, from all the reports that we've heard, I'm going to run the team. You're just going to coach it. And Ken Wisenhunt said, how in the bleep are you going to tell me how to coach a football team? And they knew that one wasn't going well.
Well, maybe
they brought it cut.
But Matt, maybe he should have listened to Joe, because old Kenny in Tennessee went 3-20, is now looking for work. So he can get off his high horse a little bit there.
I'll say this about Wisenhunt: he did take the Cardinals to a Super Bowl, so he does know what he's doing. He just has to have the right guys to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think you could say that for a lot of people, but that was his problem. It took him too long to get the right guys in there, and he didn't have enough of them. And Tennessee's been a dumpster fire for years, and it's going to continue being that until Mariota decides that he can be a stud, or struggles, one of the two. But up until that point, you're never going to get a good coach that's going to stay long-term in Tennessee, because they're not going to have the time to develop.
No, you're right. You're listening to The Doghouse, your inside look at the Cleveland Browns. I'm Andy McNamara alongside Browns Insider from WKYC Sports in Cleveland, Matt Florjancic, brought